If you have Microsoft 365 accounts with more than one organization, you may have meetings spread across completely separate Outlook calendars. Maybe you work for two companies, consult for multiple organizations, or have accounts across different subsidiaries or business units. The problem is that each Microsoft 365 tenant has its own calendar environment. So if I have a meeting from 2 to 3 on my calendar in Tenant A, my calendar in Tenant B may still show that time as completely available. That can lead to double bookings, inaccurate availability, and a lot of checking multiple calendars before agreeing to a meeting. In this video, I'll show you what Microsoft supports natively for sharing calendars across tenants, where those options fall short if you need actual calendar synchronization, and how to set up cross-tenant sync with CalendarBridge. First, let's clarify what we mean by different Microsoft tenants. A Microsoft 365 tenant is essentially an organization's separate Microsoft environment. So I might have one Microsoft account with company A and another with company B. Both accounts use Outlook. Both have Microsoft calendars. But they belong to separate organizations, so neither calendar automatically knows what's happening on the other. Here's my calendar in Tenant A. I have a meeting scheduled from 2 to 3. Now I'll switch to my account in Tenant B. There's nothing scheduled here. As far as Tenant B is concerned, I'm available. And that's where this becomes more than just an inconvenience. If someone in Company B checks my availability, or another scheduling tool relies on this calendar, that 2 to 3 time may appear open even though I'm already in a meeting. Microsoft does provide ways to share calendar information across tenants. One of the simplest options is external calendar sharing. If my organization settings allow it, I can open Outlook, select my calendar, choose share, enter the email address associated with my other Microsoft account, and choose how much information I want to share. But whether you can do this and how much information you can share depends on the policies configured by your Microsoft 365 administrator. Microsoft also has organization-level options for cross-tenant calendar availability. Administrators can configure relationships between organizations, so users and separate tenants can see each other's free and busy information. This can be useful for companies operating multiple Microsoft tenants, including organizations going through mergers or acquisitions. But there's an important distinction here. Sharing availability across Microsoft tenants isn't the same thing as synchronizing the calendars. Let's go back to my two calendars. Microsoft's native tools can allow information from Tenant A to be visible to someone working in Tenant B. That can help people determine whether I'm free or busy. But my calendars themselves are still separate. This 2 o'clock meeting originated in Tenant A. Microsoft's cross-tenant sharing options don't simply create and maintain a synchronized version of that meeting on my calendar in Tenant B. That matters because other people and systems may be looking specifically at my Tenant B calendar. Maybe my assistant schedules meetings from that account. Maybe coworkers are checking my availability. Maybe I've connected that calendar to a scheduling page or another application. If that system only knows what's actually on Tenant B, it may not have the complete picture of my schedule. The other workaround is to manually block the time on both calendars. But then every time a meeting is created, moved, canceled, or updated, you have another calendar to remember to update. If all you need is cross-tenant visibility, Microsoft's native sharing options may be enough. If you need the calendars themselves to stay aligned, that's where calendar synchronization becomes useful. With CalendarBridge, I can connect both Microsoft 365 accounts directly and create a sync between their calendars. I've already connected my Microsoft account from Tenant A. Now, I'll connect the account from Tenant B. Depending on your organization's Microsoft 365 settings, you may see an administrator approval message during this step. If that happens, it doesn't necessarily mean anything is wrong. Your Microsoft administrator may need to approve CalendarBridge before you're allowed to authorize access to your calendar. I'll include instructions for that process in the description. Once both accounts are connected, I can choose the calendars I want to sync. Let's start with the one-way sync from Tenant A to Tenant B. I'll select my Tenant A calendar as the source and my Tenant B calendar as the destination. Next, I can decide what information should be synchronized. For example, Company B doesn't necessarily need to know that my 2 o'clock meeting is a confidential client call. They just need to know I'm unavailable. So, I can have CalendarBridge create a busy event without exposing the original meeting details. Now I'll create the sync. Here's the original meeting in Tenant A. And now, Tenant B also reflects that unavailability from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. The 2 Microsoft accounts still belong to separate organizations. CalendarBridge isn't merging the tenants or giving one organization access to the other organization's calendar. It's synchronizing the calendar information I've authorized between them. If meetings can originate on both calendars, I can also synchronize them in both directions. Instead of creating a one-way sync, I'll create a multi-directional sync between these 2 calendars. Now, if a meeting is added to Tenant A, Tenant B reflects that time. And if a meeting is added to Tenant B, Tenant A reflects it too. If the original meeting changes, CalendarBridge keeps the synced event updated. So whichever Microsoft account I'm working from, my availability reflects what's happening on the other calendar. And I can still control what information crosses between them. One organization might only receive a busy block, while another calendar can receive more event information. So which option should you use? If your organization simply needs people in separate Microsoft tenants to look up each other's free and busy information, Microsoft's native cross-tenant sharing tools may do exactly what you need. But if you personally work across multiple Microsoft 365 tenants and need each calendar to reflect your complete availability, sharing alone doesn't solve the entire problem. CalendarBridge gives you a direct sync between those calendars. You connect the Microsoft accounts you use, choose which calendars should stay aligned, control what information is shared, and CalendarBridge keeps them updated automatically. Instead of checking multiple Outlook calendars before accepting a meeting or manually blocking the same time in multiple accounts, each calendar can reflect your actual availability, even when those calendars belong to completely separate Microsoft tenants.